You getting the feeling, like I am, after yesterday's big headline out of Biddeford, Maine, Biddeford, that the abolish ICE crowd is getting more and more desperate, but they thought they had their golden goose. And it's very, very sad. Most normal Americans you talk to, anytime a migrant gets killed by ICE, they say that's very sad and it seems avoidable. And then you look at the case and you realize exactly what went down. It wasn't what the media told you. Certainly wasn't what these politicians told you. You look at the facts of the story and you realize it's even sadder because it was avoidable. But this one was different because now the politicians got a hold of one little golden nugget in this case out of Biddeford, Maine, and they found out this migrant killed by ICE because he tried to ram the police officers. He had work papers. Oh, then all of a sudden it became the story. Don't buy what they're selling you because it's the agitator. This poor guy, and we'll get into the details in a second here, he's not around anymore. He's not on the planet because he listened to these agitators. Not only the people on the street, those agitators, the political agitators who are all jumping up and down now to abolish ICE because of this. They did this. Don't get it twisted. All right, thanks for finding me. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream and replay, X, YouTube, Facebook, audio podcast, complete show as soon as we're done with the live stream on your favorite audio platforms. Let's get to the details. And again, very, very sad. No one is celebrating this. It's sad when anybody loses their life like this, but it gets even sadder somehow in how they try to twist this around. And there's another little interesting twist in this about the paid protesters who were in Biddeford, Maine, even before this happened. This is about that Senate seat in Maine. That's right, Maine. Remember? The Nazi guy tattoo who had to drop out of the race? This is all about attacking their political opponent. Politics got this guy killed. That's what did. 26-year-old Colombian national who had work papers. That's what the media is jumping all up and down. Shot by ICE because he, as we now know, as you look at the facts of the case, from witnesses, and you look at the still shots, and now even some Ring doorbell camera videos, tried to drive his car at ICE officers. 100% of the time, whether you're talking about ICE or a local cop or an FBI agent, that's going to get you killed. It just is. It's a fact of the matter. This guy probably didn't know that, and he probably thought, most likely, because of what the politicians have been saying for over a year now, maybe a year and a half, it's a rogue agency. They're out of control. This is why we must abolish ICE. That's about their immigration plan. It's these politicians that got this guy killed. Because think about it if you were in that situation. If you were this 26-year-old with work papers who was obviously trying his best to do the right thing, if you had listened to everything you'd been told about ICE, you would think, even in a simple traffic stop, they're going to kill me. I better run, do everything I possibly can. And that's why the politicians got this guy killed. It's not ICE's fault. It's the politicians and the agitators. That's whose fault it is. But let's get the details of the story. Let's get the details on how you were told this story went down last night. Here's CBS News jumping all over the fact, and they'll even tell you it's very important. He had work papers, so now it's justified, and he tried to drive at an ICE officer. More on that in a second. Here's what they grabbed on.
We turn now to Maine, where a 26-year-old Colombian man who's authorized to work in the United States, that's important, was authorized to work in the U.S., was killed in a shooting involving immigration and customs enforcement. This just days.
He even told you, it's very important, very important. The most important part of the story is he had paper. He had papers. It's very important. As if it's justified that he would drive towards a police officer. No, again, I'm pretty much on the side of this poor Colombian guy that died because all he's been told, and even maybe even lost in translation, was that these ICE officers it's like the Gestapo. They're out to kill you. Well, let's get to the facts of the matter because it didn't take long. It didn't take long before we actually saw a still shot of the front of the car, which had what? Front of the car. That's where the bullet holes are on the windshield. That means it was fired from an officer in front of a car that was moving at him and accelerating. That's the fact. But we also have this kid. And then the witnesses actually started coming around. Now, here's a kid that you didn't see on CBS News last night. They did, because he paints a different story, because he was actually in the intersection of what happened. Now, we're going to jump around a little bit, but he was there, and he explains exactly what happened. You probably didn't see this kid on the network news, because he doesn't actually line up with the story that they were trying to sell us, did he? All right, here's what he says. He was not only there and saw it, he was just in the same intersection where it happened.
15, I was driving through the intersection at Hill Street and Pool Street, and as I was approaching, you could see flashing blue lights, And then as I got closer, they were unmarked. So I assumed they were ICE, and then you could see them with their green vests and stuff, and it said police, ICE. And so as I actually was going through the intersection, I heard yelling. So I know I'm supposed to be paying attention, but I heard yelling off to my... So I looked, and I was watching, and the ICE agent was yelling and drew his weapon, and he kept yelling and yelling and warning the person driving, which is when the car was put into drive and was trying to hit the ICE officer.
Oh, that's different, isn't it? That's not what we were told for the first, I don't know what, few hours of the story until somebody finally got a hold of this kid and published his interview. Isn't that amazing? Let's jump around again, and he gives more details about what exactly happened.
I would say probably 4 shots at him, and then by that time, I was also through, the intersection, so I just heard the popping, but I did see him draw his gun at the windshield. And then, the car, you could see the car in the back, like rolling down the street.
Weren't told that, were we? Nope. Here's a kid that literally just saw it happen. As he heard, and the most important part of that right there is the yelling and yelling and yelling, which is the warning, and then he heard the car put into drive and accelerated towards the police officers. Again, you go back to the still shot that's right there. The bullet holes in this whole sad affair are right in the windshield from an ICE officer that was in front of a freaking car who was about to be run down. I don't know where we got, well, I actually do know the answer to this, but I'll throw out the hypothetical situation. Where did we ever get to the point now where they think it's okay for anybody to resist, fight, ram a car at anything an ICE officer? And here's the answer. Because of the politicians who said they're a rogue agency. Now, I keep going back to this, and this is how sad it is. This 26-year-old dude, the Colombian national, who's wound up in Biddeford, Maine, for some reason, all he's been told, maybe by family members, certainly if he's got any media or whatever he's consuming, are told that they're out to kill him. So he thought he had no choice. ICE didn't kill this guy. These politicians and these agitators did. Now, let's talk about the agitators, because this was already happening. Isn't that something? It was already there in Maine. There were agitators on the street ready to go. A lot of them paid. A lot of them with the pre-printed signs. Isn't that amazing how we always see that? They were already there. What were they doing? Well, this is all about that Senate seat in Maine. That's right. The same state where we had that Nazi guy, Plattner, had to drop out because he was too disgusting even for the Democrats when they finally turned on him. This is all about that Senate seat and trying to rev this up and opposing it and to oppose Susan Collins, who's in this race for re-election, the Republican senator. This is in record time. They started storming her office. Isn't that
17 minutes past the hour right now? Anti-ICE protests outside the office of Senator Susan Collins after a deadly shooting in Maine involving an ICE agent. This is Bedford, where the shooting happened about 25 minutes south of Portland. Our correspondent Alexis McAdams is reporting live here in New York.
Organized in record time. Isn't that something? So here we go. We have their shooting. They already have their information. Oh, this is golden. They killed one that had papers. These freaking agitators, the street ones and the politicians we'll get to in a second, they don't give a damn about this poor guy that was killed. They don't give a damn. In fact, they got him killed for their own political purpose, to abolish ICE. This is another ball in the bucket we can put into for the abolish ICE crowd. We got one, and he had work papers, so they're especially wrong. No, the guy rammed the car at a police officer, an ICE officer, a federal agent, because you were told that you told him and everybody else with your propaganda that he was going to be killed anyway. That's why the guy's dead. Now, all of this information was available for the politicians by the time they went on their social media accounts and their interns and their pages, put them all together and they posted it. Did that stop them? Did the facts get in the way of these politicians, these agitators, these leftist lunatics stirring the pot even more? No, it did not. First one we'll go to is the dumbest man in Congress, probably in congressional history, and that's saying something. This is Special Ed Markey from Massachusetts. Here's what he had to say about it. Again, keep in mind the timeline. He had work papers, but by this time they already know that the shots came from in front of the car.
This morning, ICE murdered a man in Maine. I am horrified by this attack and devastated that it happened here in New England. Another life taken, and another family left grieving because of Trump's thugs. We cannot be...
Trump's thugs. Now, Special Ed Markey has never said anything about families that were killed by migrant workers who shouldn't have gotten a commercial driver's license or run down, or killed by a criminal, illegal alien on the streets. He's never said anything about them, ever, because that would upset the agenda. That would throw a wrench in the whole plan. He wouldn't do that, would he? But he was one of the first to comment on it, of course. But then you got this guy. His name is Nirav Shah. Audio's a little low. It's kind of tough to hear. But what he says is important. He's also running for that, we go back to that Senate seat in Maine, that all-important Senate seat that's wide open. He's running on the Democrat side on an abolish ICE platform. His name is Nirav Shah. A little low, but we can hear what he says about ICE. You listen to this and you tell me that people like this poor immigrant guy that got killed wasn't told the wrong information from people like this.
A broken, unaccountable, rogue agency that has shown itself incapable of discharging its mission safely. Now, as the son of immigrants, these ICE raids...
Nirav Shah, U.S. Senate candidate, calls ICE an unaccountable, rogue agency, incapable of controlling itself. He's an abolish ICE guy, right? What's the real plan there? What's the real plan? So that you open the border again and get all the illegals in so guys like that can get elected without any accountability. That's why it is. But now you go back to this again. A rogue, unaccountable agency. And then you have people hear that and they believe it and they think they're out to kill all of us because they listen to political agitators like that idiot. But this is the granddaddy of them all. Of all the bad takes, of all the ridiculous, desperate theatrics that went into this entire story after the fact, here's the politician that takes the cake. Seth Moulton, another Senate candidate. Well, he says, this is where I go back to the beginning where it says, doesn't it seem like the abolish ICE crowd are even more desperate than ever? Somewhere along the line, when they lose campaigns, when they lose a narrative, when they lose something, they've got these political advisors, like these campaign advisors that tell these people you got to get tough. You got to drop F-bombs like Trump does, and you have to threaten. You got to try to be a tough guy. It's never worked. And they do that on the Republican side, too. It's never worked. It's laughable. And they just start swearing all the time. And I'm sorry about the F-bomb in this one, but this is Seth Moulton. Again, a politician, an agitator that creates all this stuff. But keep in mind the timeline. They already know that this poor Colombian guy was shot from in front of the car. They already know he'd been warned. They already know the timeline of the entire thing and how it happened. And then he decides to make this video.
If you don't think this is fucked up, you don't know what it means to be an American. And every one of us should be angry right now in this moment and willing to stand up for our values, the values that have always made this country great. And anyone who's just letting these MAGA autocrats get away with this needs to fight or get out of the way. It's time for us.
Fight or get out of the way. Right. Big tough guy, right? That's just being mocked widely throughout the country, and especially on social media these days, because they have these political advisors that tell them you got to be a tough guy, you got to start dropping F-bombs, and you got to swear, and he intentionally did the video in some sort of a back alley. Again, you got to admit these mega thugs get away with this. What, enforcing the law? Is that what you're talking about there, Seth? They're all crooks, and I'll go again. I'll say it again. They're trying to blame these ICE agents for this, but you look at the still shots itself of the bullet holes. You listen to that witness kid who was actually in the intersection at the time. All of the facts are clear. It's not the ICE agents' fault. It's these agitators. Two different kinds. The ones on the street, obviously, who most of them are paid with their pre-printed signs and their political rallies and all this other crap like we just saw in Maine it was already ready to go. And you have idiots like that who are in elected offices or trying to get elected. That's who got this poor guy killed, because they told you that it's a rogue agency of thugs. No, it's not. These are people who are enforcing the law that, by the way, the law that Congress passed. It's just unbelievable. But here's the good news, and I'll leave you with this. Less and less people believe the agitators because of messages like Seth Moulton, that idiot. Less and less people. A lot of people heard that and they said, wait a second, this doesn't sound right at all. If this guy's telling this story of how it happened in Biddeford, Maine, I don't think that's really the case. And then people look up exactly what happened, or you and me dig into it, and then we find, oh, okay, it wasn't the ICE agent's fault. In fact, this guy was probably scared to death because of the narrative and the propaganda that these idiot politicians are sending out there. So, sad. None of this makes it better. It's sad all the way around. I feel sorry for this Colombian guy who was shot by the ICE officer, but I feel sad for people who are still listening to these agitators because they did this. They did this with their anti-ICE narrative. What do you mean anti? What do you mean anti-ICE? They're enforcing the laws that you passed that are on the books. Rogue agency, right? They never put this much attention into Americans that are killed by criminal illegal aliens or gangs, do they? No, but they do in this because they think they have one for their agenda. But this one's falling apart right quick. Unbelievable. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully better news tomorrow for sure. Oh, enjoy the baseball all-star game tonight. Home run derby last night was good. Good job out of you, the national pastime. We still need that in American culture. In the meantime, thanks for finding me in the replay on X and YouTube and Facebook and the audio podcast, the complete episode, whenever we get off the live stream on your favorite audio platform. And look for clips on all those social media networks as well. Making a wicked awesome Tuesday. Be safe. I'll talk to you tomorrow.